All right, hello everyone. This is Gene Trowbridge with the Trowbridge Law Group, and welcome to another issue of TLG Talks. This series of interviews is going on strong, about 16 so far, and we're interviewing people that are in the syndication business, that are either friends of the company, or we'd like them to be friends of the company, or people who aren't in the syndication business. And today, I'm pretty excited. You know, we have this rookie training camp that people sign on and go to for a couple mornings, and we talk about what's it going to be like to be a syndicator, and no one can come in who's actually done a deal. Well, our guest today came through the rookie training camp. She's one of our rookie alumni, and I've asked her to talk to us today about how we're going to go into that business, how she's going to go into that business. And I think it'll be very interesting. So I want to say good morning to Whitney Ward. Hi, Whitney.
Hello. It's afternoon here, though.
Oh, it is. That's right. You're in Atlanta, aren't
I
you?
am. I am. So I've been up for a little bit.
No, I guess so. Well, so have I, even though it's only 10. You know, when you work on the West Coast, kind of where I am, everything is back east.
Mm.
Everything is back east, and that's all right. So, Whitney, as you can see on the slide that I have behind me, is the founder and chief executive officer at Intuitive Management Partners, and there's their website. And on their website, you can read her biography, and that's very interesting. But I'd like Whitney to take a chance to introduce herself to us, and so we can see where she's coming from as she heads on to her journey of being a syndicator.
Yeah. So, Gene, thank you for having me on. I'm excited. You don't even realize you've been a mentor, and you don't think that you will meet someone that you've read books about and stuff, and then you finally meet them. And so it's been a pleasure. My background, I came from the brokerage background. I actually was a commercial broker for a large national brokerage firm here in Atlanta for about 5 years, specializing in the multifamily space. And there, after brokering transactions, I just realized, there's a real opportunity on this other side of the transaction that I think would provide a better future for me in the long term. I've always been interested in real estate investing, and understanding the multifamily asset first from the brokerage side kind of gave me an inside scoop without really having to take on much risk. So after spending some time in the brokerage side of the business, I reevaluated my business plan and my business structure and said, what value can I bring if I was to shift to this investment world in the multifamily sector? And there wasn't much. There's not, I didn't have a ton of money to put into a deal. I hadn't, done deals in the past as an investor or as a principal. But one thing we did have was the management side. And so I did end up partnering with my current director of operations. She came from the property management background, and her and I teamed up, and we said, well, let's bring operational support to these assets. That is the heart and brain and soul of the apartment investing business anyway. And now let's see what we can do with that. So over the last year, it's taken like a year and a half to really build a system that we didn't want to just be, that licensee who just has property management. We wanted to actually build a company, a firm that can compete in the space. So after about a year and a half, we built this company, and now we're positioned as an asset and property management company, providing project management, a full-scale operational platform for investors. And then, in that space, we're not third-party managers. We invest alongside our investors and support them operationally in that asset through to dispositions.
That's great, because there are some, you read my book, and so there are some conflicts in from the brokerage to the syndication business when you're managing properties for other people and you're syndicating similar properties and you're competing for tenants and time and all that. There are some conflicts, and I've known syndicators, Whitney, who have run from that conflict and just retreated straight to brokerage because that's where they're making their living. And then I've known people kind of like myself who couldn't wait to get out of brokerage and get into fiduciary type work with other people and their investors. I know people that do both. So it's just what you want to do. And so I think you've made the great steps forward. You said something that I hear in all of these interviews, why did you get into being a syndicator? Well, I didn't have enough money to buy all the real estate I wanted to own myself, so I had to take in other investors. And that puts you in the syndication business, Whitney, which puts you in the securities business, and away we go. Some of my better clients started out similar to what you're doing, Whitney, in that they wanted a platform that was going to be big enough when they did their first deal that they made an impression. Okay, I mean, everyone can syndicate like I did, a little 10-unit apartment building in St. Paul that we bought for cash for $70,000 way back when. But then one of my better clients said, no, I'm gonna go out and get something that's 100 units or more, and then I'm gonna hire someone like a Whitney to provide us the asset management and project management and whatever, so I can make a statement. So I think you're on the right path there. Are you going to be, as you're moving into the syndication business, working on I'm going to use the term institutional, but that means different things to different people. Some other people who are going to raise money and bring them into your deals, knowing that you're going to maybe put some money in the deals and you're going to handle all the asset management. Is that something that you've thought of in your business plan?
Yeah. So, for us, it took a while. The reason it took some time is, to your point, in your book, you talk a lot about the conflict of interest. And I had to really think about that because it's hard. Initially, I'm still licensed in Georgia and in Maryland, so I can technically broker deals and everything. But then you kind of bite the hand that feeds you, not only from a fiduciary responsibility within like the clients you represent, but then the brokers who actually have a lot of the listings that I'm looking to acquire. So we shifted it to asset and property management. But from a raising syndication standpoint, I still believe it's about being an expert in your space. So for initially, as we come into this business, I'm going to partner with private equity funds and firms that have the license to syndicate or broker deals and already have those funds established, and they have their reputation. So now we're going to just focus on what we're experts at. And so as we start to scale and I can build my company, dynamics will shift. I do believe in creating a vertically integrated system, but I do believe there's a stepping stone process to that. And so I think without having to stress myself out about a whole nother side of the business that I've never done before, I think it's important to hire people like your company and then partnerships with other firms that have done this before, have the equity built, and we find that asset for them.
Oh, I think that's an excellent plan. And one of the things I learned way back when is if I'm going to be a syndicator in a product space, and there are brokers out there with listings, they're not always interested in bringing them to me because once I have it, I'm going to have it for a long time. Right. And now I'm in control of the property. I'm in control of the investors. And, I may just re-syndicate that property over and over and over. Exactly. Where they can sell it to an individual owner and it'll come back to them in the brokerage side. So I think that's great. I lucked into the ability to have broker dealers raise money for me. Just I happen to be, and I notice on your biography you've been a speaker at many of the places I've been speakers at. I happened to be a speaker at a financial planning conference in Anaheim once, and the fellow who was sitting alongside of me was the owner of a small broker dealer firm. And when I got through speaking, he said, that's interesting. If you have a project, why don't you bring it to me? Okay, and I really didn't know what all that was. So I did, and that was my whole career in raising money, was basically having other people raise the money for me. Now, I think you just said that you're going to bring some of your own investors' money in and to go alongside of these private equity firms, right?
Yeah, so from a GP perspective, I mean, obviously at that point, so I do have private equity firms that will either provide all of the LP funds that we need, or there's one particular group that's going to provide 80%, and then they require the general partnership to provide the 20%. And that must be, between, close family and friends only. In that kind of model, the general partners that I would work with would have to be someone that has, first of all, experience and the ability to sign on a loan, but also some experience in raising capital. And then that's when we would call you, of course, to make sure we're doing this the right way. But in that model, yes, we'd raise. But ideally, I will be honest. I like a model where there's limited general partners, because operationally for us, I mean, we know the asset honestly better than our equity partners. Mm-hmm. And that's how it should be. And so we want complete control of how the operations works to get those returns that the investors need and want. And then, just have them participate in the deal on the equity side as an LP. That would be the ideal model. So, so limited general partners, all equity raised on the LP side through an equity firm.
One of the things that we'll talk about when we get there, when we're working on a deal, is investing in the deal through the manager. Mm-hmm. Managers can be removed. So we need to be careful of who actually owns the units that are a result of investing, quote, through the manager. Mm-hmm. We need to be careful that stays with you.
Yeah.
Because a manager can be removed, but we don't want the units that they own and the investment that they've made to go with it when they're removed. So that's something we'll talk about. We'll talk about, Whitney. So you're going to concentrate in multifamily.
Yep.
Just apartments, or senior or assisted, or what? Multifamily is broad,
so broad, right? Yeah. So we're focused in apartments, ideally. Nothing really, our space is 100 units or more. We'll go as small as 75 units, and B assets, something 1975 or newer. Really, that 1980s product is really what we're focused on, and we like that C+B asset type neighborhood as well. Not interested in assisted living or senior living. It's a totally different business model. And again, I harp on, I believe if you're an expert in something, then it's just like going to the doctors. You're not going to go to a knee doc. You're not going to go to a heart doctor for your knee, right? So if we live in our space, that might limit the amount of assets that we get access to. But I believe for us, it provides the value that our partners would be looking for. And the amount of learning that you need to have and the education you need to have to operate an asset is extensive. So, trying to be a jack of all trades is definitely not something I'm interested in. I don't think, from an investment management side of the business, it's a value to our partners. So yeah, we'll stick into that apartment asset type, nothing in mobile home parks. We're not interested. And now that doesn't mean as I scale and as the business grows, I mean, my whole vision might change. But again, I would harp on, for me, it's important one step at a time. There's a bigger picture of development down the line, because, housing shortage is a big deal. So I love real estate because there's that unlimited opportunity to do a variety of different things. So.
Well, I think that's exciting. I think in my process of looking at at selling into the syndication world, you need to identify, which what you have done is identify a space where there's an opportunity. And you just mentioned that the supply and demand imbalance in housing, especially the C and B class, is with us and is going to be with us for a while. So you've identified that as an opportunity. That's something that potential clients will have to be told about. This is what we've identified as the opportunity. And then I think the next thing you have to do is say, I've assembled a team. I've assembled a team that can get to work and seize on the opportunities that I've identified. And once you get those two things going and in your patter with clients, then you're ready to bring an offering to them and say, see,
exactly.
I'm in the area that I thought was an opportunity. I have my team together, and here's how we're going to attack this property to meet the opportunity that we see. And I think that's a 100% game winner in attracting investors' money, Whitney. I think that's true. I will tell you that some of my first of all, you picked an area that, in my experience, there's a whole bunch of competition in buying C and B properties. Yeah. A whole bunch of competition. So that's okay. And but the other side of the coin is you've entered into an area that we do have somewhat limited ability of individuals buying. Your competition is going to be other people, in my opinion, who've been able to access money from multiple investors and to go into the investment. So you'll meet a lot of people in this business, which I'm sure you already have, and that's great. So some of my clients in the multifamily business have moved in the last 2 years to mobile home parks, and they've moved there because they think what's the opportunity? Low income housing.
Yep.
And what do we need to do? We need to upgrade some of these parks. It's kind of a crazy industry with a lot of mom and pop owners of small parks who don't have the money to do the upgrades. And there's cash flow. Yeah. There's cash flow, more so than in the multifamily. So I see those people move, and I'm not lecturing, I'm just saying, I think you're absolutely right. You've got to be a specialist. I was a self-storage specialist, period.
Okay.
And that was good. So let's talk about some issues you think, usually the last question I've asked the other people is, what advice do you have for rookies? Okay, I can't ask you that. But what issues do you think you're going to face as you move forward, let's say in the next 6 months?
Yeah. So I think the biggest issue is everyone's afraid of the rookie, right? So we've spent so much time becoming experts in our space to try to overcome that. I think that's going to be the biggest pushback, because our competitors that have a similar model, they're large companies with thousands of assets under management. But what I would say to our partners is you're taking a company, yes, we don't have thousands of assets under management, but we have your asset under management that can be given 110% of our time with our best staff. I mean, you can't beat that type of service. And so, for us, I think that's going to be a challenge, but I think that's something that can be overcome with the right partner and someone that gets a chance to understand our systems. I think the benefit of me coming from the brokerage background and learning how to underwrite deals, it's going to help as well be able to explain why a deal fits their investment needs and why we see the opportunity. And I think if we're able to articulate that as well as bring our experience from an operations perspective, I think, we'll be able to bridge that gap. Of course, we'll have our challenges. Of course, you'll have people that say no. But honestly, Gene, to get to where I've been today, I've been told no and still overcome challenges. So I think it's just a matter of that's how it happens when you grow.
I think so. I know that when the broker-dealer community um, accepted me. This one guy said, if you have a deal, bring it to me. I ended up with 16 companies selling my deals. And what I sold was local real estate. And back in those days, these huge limited partnerships were buying stuff all over the country. Not everyone wanted to invest in that. So I concentrated on the 3-county area of Southern California, which is huge, but local real estate and higher income investors. And not every investor wants to invest if 80 people are putting in $20,000 each. So we were always looking at $100,000 investment minimums in local real estate. And I always thought that in every day, one of my investors was going to be driving down the street with someone in the car and say, I own a piece of that. And that proved to be true. That proved to be an attractive part of my marketing. What opportunities did I find? I found opportunities in our area, and I had a team to work with that would capture those opportunities. So, what's another issue?
The other issue, that we're having now is that because I came from the brokerage side, oftentimes brokers are hesitant to filter deals my way because they think I'm going to either take it or I'm not serious. I'm still that threat from a broker perspective. So that's been challenging. It's getting better, but that's been currently one of the largest challenges we've had from a deal sourcing perspective.
How are you set up to handle investor communications?
Yeah, so we actually partner with RealPage, IMS. So our system, and I don't know how much you know about that, but it's very intuitive, very all-encompassing, and easy to use, honestly. But that's our software.
No, that's very good. We have a lot of my more advanced syndicators use a third-party application like that. As I told you in the rookie class, if there had been something like that, when I hit the wall on how many investors I had and how many K1s I was sending out, who knows? I might have stayed in the business, but there wasn't anything. So that's a good place. Well, when I ask people what advice do they have for rookies, Whitney, the number one answer I get is build a team. Now, I'm interested in that. As you heard me say, if I come to you, Whitney, and say, I love your deal, I've got the $50,000 you need, but Whitney, what happens if something happens to you? So I'm interested in that in a continuity basis so that the investors are safe in case something happens to you. But I think it's more than that. All the people I talk to, it's a number one thing, build a team. And you've already talked to me about some of the people you'd look for being on your team. You'd like your IMS is a team player. You'd like to have someone in your manager entity who's capable to sign on the mortgage, right?
Yep.
Because that's a challenge.
Yep.
You are looking for people, I don't know if they're going to be in your manager group, but you're looking for a team of people who already have investors, already have the mechanics in place to raise money. Yep. And so if you have investor communications, if you have the ability to sign on the loan and some help in raising the money, and then you have your own team for the asset management. I think all the people who I've interviewed would say, well, boy, Whitney, you're really on the right place to get started. Then I think the second thing you need to do is you need to work on your database of potential investors.
Definitely.
Now, you said something earlier that the people who are going to invest with you are thinking that the people who are going to invest are going to be close associates with you, and you're not going to crowdfund for these people. But you're going to walk from that someday.
Right.
You're going to want to do your own deal. And so now is the time to start a database of people with whom you think you can communicate, build a relationship, and then when it's time for you to raise money, you need to go out and talk to them. But by building the relationship and actually, Whitney, showing them deals that they can't invest in now because you've got this arrangement with someone else and this is a deal I've done, educating them ahead of time of what you're doing and how it's working, that'll certainly make the process of when you ask them for a check, it'll make it easier because you've educated. What are you going to do about geography? You say you're licensed in Maryland and Georgia, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm focused in the Southeast and specifically the Atlanta market. There's pockets outside of the Atlanta market that I like. I know Georgia like the back of my hand, especially the Atlanta market. So that's easy for me. When we see opportunities, I already know if that market, is performing. And then I'm interested in the Tennessee market, Chattanooga, Murfreesboro, even Shelbyville. We've done some research on that area and we like the trends there. But I don't want to be in a lot of different areas initially because there's a lot of obstacles that I am actually going to have to overcome. We mentioned some, and I think knowing our market and being able to understand the product type and the residents in those markets will work to our advantage. So that's where I'm staying. Now, I am licensed in Maryland, but I'm from Maryland. So I got that license there as a piece to keep me a part of where I'm from. And I'm very heavily involved in my alumni association at George Mason, which is in Fairfax, Virginia. So it's a part of my network of people that I know. So it made sense to be licensed up there.
Yesterday, in my interview with Mike Flaherty, who is probably my second most prolific syndicator client, he stressed at the beginning of his run at syndicating that they really were happy to do one deal a year. They were happy to get that first deal done and then sit back and organize and see what they learned. And it took them a couple years to where they were comfortable doing more than one deal a year. And I commented that one of the mistakes I made as a syndicator was thinking I always had to have a deal on the street. Because if I didn't have something to offer every single day, I was worried I'd lose an investor to someone else's deal. And I made one mistake on that. We went out and built a building on the assumption that this credit union was going to get their final approval to take the ground floor, and they didn't. And so we had a building built on an uncovered construction loan, which caused a lot of sleepless nights in trying to solve that. But he was the first person in this set of interviews who really stressed not moving too fast. But the other side of that is you don't make any money. You really don't make enough money on your first deal to feed this organization you're building. And I know as you get into be a syndicator, you need more people, you need more phones, you need more desks, you do all that. So your first couple deals, at least initially, on whatever fee structure you have early on, all that gets eaten up in your business. Yes, you're building equity and there's long-term involvement for you on the sell side or the refinance side. But I think you're going to find that all your fees up front are going to be eaten up until you get maybe the third or fourth deal. And all of a sudden you've got, 100 investors or 3 or 4 giant investors that you have to pay attention to, because this is a people business.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like you're all ready to do the real estate part of it, but just wait until you get into the fact that it's taking care of people, because you know what? You have their money.
Right.
And that's a different thing than being a broker. You rarely take anyone's money when you're doing a brokerage assignment. You have a contract and you do your work and you get paid and that's it. But this is a little different, and it takes some education. So I think you're ready to go. Give me 1 or 2 people who you think might be helpful to you as mentors as you go forward.
Wow. That's a good question. Joe Fairless. I've read his book too, around the same time I read your book. I think somehow I'm on his email campaign, but anyway, he's one of those guys that I think really knows his stuff, built a business from the ground up, and is successful and real in his experience when he's teaching. So that would be one. Two, let me think. I don't know.
It doesn't seem to me like you need an awful lot of mentoring in the real estate space. The mentoring you'll need is in the securities and the money raising space. There are gurus out there. I don't really teach money raising. I'll teach you the securities law and make sure everything you do is legal. But there are people out there who you can talk to and maybe get some advice from them as far as well. You had Jake and Gino in your biography, right?
Yeah. I know those guys, especially Jake. I've done a lot with them. Dylan Marma when he was over there, but
Sure.
They're good guys. They got a good organization, and they're a group of guys that built from scratch too, and are doing very well.
I have flown to Atlanta to be on this guy's radio show, and I'm having a senior moment. I can't tell you what his name is, but he's out in Peachtree, and he has a radio studio in his building, and he's on the radio station. I wish I knew what his name was. And we've talked about it. I know he's a broker, but he's also a guy. I wish I could remember his name. Sorry, I'm a little older, and sometimes it causes me some trouble. But that's interesting. Well, I think there are a lot of people out there who do these podcasts, and as you run across people who are doing podcasts, don't just hesitate to say, hey, this is great. I might be someone you might want to interview. Be bold about that. And all sorts of people who don't really know me have accepted that line and have looked me up, and we've talked. And then I get on a lot of podcasts. And that's what's happening today, in getting your name out and your word out, the social media. So that's great. So I'm going to give you a chance to ask me one question before I say goodbye. Anything that we covered that you want more on? Is there any one thing, or you want to ask me if I bet on George Mason in the upcoming basketball season and the ladies team, or what do you want?
Do you follow college basketball?
I do. I'm a huge fan of college basketball, and I know the name of George Mason. Not so much the women's side. What?
Yeah, the men's team went to the Final Four that year.
Yeah, no, I follow that.
Yeah.
In fact, I had bets on the Final Four this year that I've got hanging on my wall. I don't know if I get a refund or not, but I had a couple bets. I'm always on, some West Coast teams. I'm always, one day it's going to be Gonzaga. One day they're going to step through. And
they used to win all the time back in the day. Well, they used to at least get to the Final Four all the time.
Yeah,
always have them. Sweet 16 or Elite 8 for Gonzaga.
Oh, and 2 years ago, I was on Tennessee, Tennessee and men's, and I think Auburn. I kind of was for them. So anyhow, you don't need my advice in basketball scouting or whatever. But so if there's anything I can do for you, give me a call. And once again, the people who are watching, they should go to your website. It's on the screen, and read your bio and reach out to you and get to know you. And I think that's great. And it's wonderful that you took the time out of your busy schedule to be with me today on TLG Talks. And I'll let you know when we're going to broadcast this. It's always Thursday at noon California time on YouTube. We did our second one yesterday. Yesterday was Vinny Chopra.
I didn't see that.
You probably know that.
Mm-hmm.
I started
Smiley is what they call him.
Smile Chopra, right? So That's great. We broadcast that out to social media, and you'll be seen all over the place, Whitney. So that's great. So, Whitney, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a good time. Thank you.
Good.